hustling. I won't be defined by your dreams, committed to my goals, yeah. Gotta do my own thing, keep up the hustling.
Hi, welcome to Hustleburg. This podcast is all about small business in Saint Petersburg, Florida, how the business owners got started, how they built their business, and how they serve our community. I'm Brett Bittner, and I'm the host of Hustleburg, and I started Beyond Your Side Hustle, a marketing firm where we help budding entrepreneurs go beyond their side hustles and ditch their 9-to-5s. As the founder of a small business here in St. Pete myself, I love meeting and talking with fellow small business owners. Lucky for you, I also like to record those conversations for you to listen to. If you find anything of value in this episode, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, because there are probably more nuggets in other episodes, both past and upcoming. It would also be great if you rate and review the episode to let us know what you got out of the conversation. If you have a question about marketing, building your brand, or operating your small business that you'd like to have answered on a Q&A episode, please visit beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast question to submit it. In this episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing Frank Marsalisi from Marsalisi Law. You can find out more about them at marsalisilaw.com or on Facebook or Twitter with the username Marsalisi Law. Enjoy the episode. So, Frank, why the law?
You know, that's a great question. My parents, I grew up in this area. My parents were both physicians. So I always grew up around them serving the community and serving people. And so, naturally, I always thought when I went to high school and college that I would probably follow in the footsteps of my parents and become a physician. And then I quickly realized that I was terrified of needles and blood and all the hands-on interaction that you need to have as a doctor. So I kind of try to figure out what I can do along the same lines that they have taught me as far as helping the community, helping people in need. And the law really kind of fell in my lap. That's probably easier to say it fell in my lap. Both my grandparents were lawyers and a judge in Cuba, so it's not like it wasn't in my blood, but it wasn't really what I anticipated as a young child. And as some people grow up that they say all they want to do is become a lawyer, and that really wasn't the case when I was growing up. Why I stumbled on personal injury law is obviously you do kind of have the medical background. We have to read through medical records at trial. We have to, depose doctors. So it was just kind of a marriage of what I grew up with, along with, my spin on how I could actually help people, especially people who are in the most need.
So when you're looking at the clients that you serve, you're generally looking at personal injury. Do you have any other practice areas?
That's all we do.
Okay.
Ever since I came out of law school, some people work for the public defender's office or the state attorney's office doing criminal law. Right out of law school, my very first job was representing plaintiffs, injured parties and motorcycle auto accidents. So I've always done this. Whenever I have a conversation with a client, I tell them, I can't sing or dance, but I certainly can try a case, especially an injury case, because it's all I know how to do. If you ever needed a divorce lawyer, I'm not the person to call, or even a criminal lawyer. We don't do that, but our specialty is what it is.
So what was it, you mentioned serving in different practice areas, personal injury under a different firm. What was it that got you to hang out your own shingle to make it Marsalisi Law rather than working for another attorney or in another office?
Sure. So I want to say that I always had aspirations on opening up my own law firm. And with that in mind, my very first job was at a medium-sized law firm where not only would I learn the ins and outs of being a lawyer and client acquisition and all that, but really the business aspect of it. And so from there, I was a litigation attorney who also handled for litigation cases for not only that law firm, but also other large law firms who weren't litigating in the area. So it was a really good way to kind of get my feet wet, immersive, at least hands-on with the cases, but also because I was in a smaller law firm, being able to have the discussions with the partners and see what they're doing to attract clients, how to maintain clients, how to keep clients happy. That was all super important. From there, I ended up leaving and becoming managing attorney for another law firm in Ybor City. Did that for a number of years, and that allowed me to not only handle the cases that we had, but also even more immersed and hands-on with business decisions, where marketing dollars are going to go, business philosophies. And then after doing that for several years, and I decided it was time to come back home to St. Pete, which is where I lived really my entire life, other than going to Gainesville at UF for undergrad and Pittsburgh for law school. So it was nice to come back home and actually stay home. I still obviously handle clients all over the state of Florida, and especially in Tampa, but I'm able to do it a little bit more strategically as far as the time dealing with rush hour.
Oh, sure. Now, the law generally, like a lot of the professional services providers, are generally pretty highly regulated with regard to advertising and solicitation. So how is it that clients are finding Marsalisi law when they have a personal injury case that they want to have heard?
Sure. The majority of it, and I would say about 95 to nearly 99% of the clients that come to our firm, it's all based on word of mouth. It's either former clients, current clients, maybe physicians in the area that we've helped their patients. It's really that. Of course, we do have a presence online, but that mostly is just a website as well as reviews on Google. Our Google reviews from our clients have definitely helped out a lot, and we're getting a little bit more exposure from that. But I rely on an old adage that a mentor taught me when I was in high school, where he said, the cream rises to the top. And I've kind of taken that to heart. I do a good job on my clients, and it's always paid forward. And that's the reason why we don't have to spend all this money on marketing, because people actually do find us, and it's great for us because we're able to give back to the community, and also it serves us as well.
Now, you mentioned serving previously in a medium-sized firm and then as the managing attorney when you were in Ybor City. Now that you're completely out on your own and it's all Marsalisi, do you have anyone or anything kind of guiding you on building the business side of Marsalisi law, or are you just kind of going with that previous experience?
The previous experience has definitely helped out. I do have mentors, some of the old partners that I've worked with in the past who've kind of guided me wherever I've had a question in regards to business. And I also have certain colleagues that work at other firms where, let's say that you just want to have a second opinion or bounce ideas off of them. I think that's super, super important, especially when you're a solo practitioner like myself. So we do have those resources. And honestly, my support staff, I can't do it without them. My wife's in the office, and any type of business decision, it's either we're discussing it here at the office or at the house over the dinner table or outside. So I don't think any business owner can do it without great support.
So taking a look at the time that you've had your own practice, what would you say is the most important lesson that you've learned thus far? Probably something that you didn't have any experience with or you hadn't learned prior to starting your own business.
I think that when you go into the idea of owning your own business, you think that you can do it all, right? We have this confidence, which I think is super important as an entrepreneur. You have to have that confidence in yourself. But when it comes down to it, you have to realize what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. And whenever you do have a weakness, you want to make sure that you're able to rely on other people and be able to have those people assist you and perform at things that they are better than you are. I have no problem putting my ego aside and reaching out to people, whether it's in different industries for SEO purposes or marketing. I rely on CPAs, on bankers, and I think that by dealing with other people, it's helped me learn as well. But I have no problem delegating in that sense.
Now, when you take a look at all of the things that you've worked on here in St. Pete, what would you say is the most inspiring thing or things that you've worked on with the community at large?
Well, we do a lot within the community, supporting nonprofit organizations. I am the president of the Skyway Marina District, which I'm super proud of because that's a neighborhood that I was born, raised, and actually currently live in. And so when I saw certain things that I would have liked changed in my community, I kind of looked to see who our community leaders were. And at that point, I decided, I could do this. And I am very passionate about that. So along with that role, as well as my role as the owner of Marsalisi Law, we've been able to help out other nonprofits. Right now, we're supporting a group called I Support Youth that's run by Lewis Stevens Jr. And he's a great guy who is born and raised here in St. Pete, who's devoted his nonprofit organization to helping kids in our neighborhood, especially in South St. Pete. It's essentially a mentorship program where maybe they don't have the family structure that they need at home, or maybe they do, but it certainly helps guide them. And so, my opinion is I'm born and raised in the community, and any way that I can give back, I know that people have helped me when I was younger. I think that's certainly a good thing. So I like supporting causes of people who are not, lining the pockets of a CEO so that he can drive a nicer car. It's people who truly are giving back. And, with nonprofits, unfortunately, sometimes you get a little bit of both. But he's been someone that we've been super, excited about supporting. We did a back to school event with him. Anytime they need something, we definitely are there because I do support his vision. We have sponsored. They did a summer youth camp that we help sponsor and give some talks to. So that's something I'm definitely passionate about. I'm also the vice chair of the board of trustees at St. Pete General, and that's a pretty interesting role because obviously everyone's been most people have been to the hospital once, and so you see how the facility is, but actually being on the board, you kind of see the back end of it and the business side of it, and that's been pretty interesting. And being able to make decisions not only within my firm, but then for these two sizable organizations, I think has definitely helped me grow as an entrepreneur as well as a business owner.
So you mentioned earlier that you rely a lot on word of mouth and referrals from past clients and partners that you've worked with, whether it's doctor's office, medical facilities, and the like. What would you say is the most important part of building your brand or reputation to make sure that you are top of mind for those people who are referring people to you that might need your legal services?
What distinguishes us from other law firms, and I can just speak based on the experience that I've had working in other law firms as well as things that other clients have told me, we put a real emphasis on taking care of our clients. Our clients are treated like family. What I tell them is, when we meet them, they're typically in a very stressful situation. They just got involved in a bad accident, motorcycle accident. They're out of their element. They're super stressed. They don't know what happens next. So what I find to be very helpful for them and what they've told us is very, very helpful is they say from the very beginning that we're there. We tell them we're going to take care of everything for them. They just need to focus on getting better, and everything else will be taken care of. And so essentially from there we launch into our investigation of coverages and all the like, but keeping the client informed, treating the client like a client, a person, as opposed to a case number or a claim number like the insurance companies love doing, or even large plaintiff injury lawyer law firms. A lot of these cases are being delegated to support staff, case managers, paralegals. And I'm not saying that, once again, I certainly rely on support staff, but the delegation of just handing it off, there's definitely a distinction there where clients who come to our law firm, they know that they're dealing with me personally. And I deal with them. I deal with the insurance companies, the defense attorneys, the judges' assistants. Everything is a one-on-one boutique experience as opposed to being, like I had said before, just a number to that firm.
So if you were to take a snapshot of Marsalisi Law right now, you kind of see that the business is at a certain level. Where is it that you want to take it, and what are you doing toward that end?
Truthfully, I don't have aspirations on having a huge law firm. It's kind of a juggling act that we do have because, our tagline is where law gets personal. Well, if all of a sudden I grow to an exponential number, well, sometimes that personal touch doesn't always get passed on. So truthfully, I'm very happy where our law firm is. I would love to grow a little bit maybe so we can, extend the reach and help more people in the community. But truthfully, if we stayed this size and we did a good job by every client that we've had, then that's success to me.
So when you take a look at your practice and how you kind of allocate your time, energy, and attention, how much would you say that you're working in the day-to-day business of Marsalisi Law versus how much you're working on the practice to make sure that you're able to reach all of your business goals and serve the community, keeping law personal?
I'm thinking people probably say 50-50 if I could without sounding being overzealous. I mean, it's 100% on both ends. You have to be a successful business owner. You have to run 100% on both ends, especially with what we do. I'm handling these cases not by myself, but essentially I'm the lawyer who's making all the decisions on these cases. So I'm 100% in that. And then I would say on the business side, it's my wife and I make all the decisions for the firm. When you're an entrepreneur, it's not like you leave the door and you're able to go home and think about whatever else and come back in the morning and start worrying about the business. As an entrepreneur, your business is always on your mind 24/7.
Oh boy, is it ever. So is there anything on your Kindle or your phone that you're reading or you're listening to or watching that's helping you to build Marsalisi Law into what you want it to be to serve St. Pete?
Yeah, I do so much reading throughout the day, whether it's contracts or medical records or pleadings, that when I go home, I prefer not to read as much as I need to. So my wife actually has got me involved in podcasts, and it just started off as, we'd be on a road trip going to Orlando or anywhere else, and we'd pop in a podcast and listen to something. But what I have been listening to are actually two podcasts. One's called Legal Mastermind Podcast, and the other one is SEO is Dead. And the very last one is Negotiate Anything. And that's kind of those three podcasts. So the SEO is Dead, I got involved in because I've been burned in the past with an SEO company down in Fort Lauderdale, and I realized that I was just giving them money and trying to have them handle whatever marketing they could do for me. And I was at such a disadvantage because they would just say words and I had no idea what they were talking about. So then I finally realized, I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm sure I can learn some things, maybe obviously not to the same level, but at least to be able to defend myself in these discussions. So then that's when I started picking up, the SEO, started watching YouTube videos. But these podcasts, the three that I mentioned, Negotiate Anything, that's also a great podcast because it's not only just negotiating what we do, but just life. Life in general is always a negotiation, and I thought that was pretty interesting. The Legal Mastermind podcast is great as well. Obviously, that's more geared towards lawyers, but it's a mixture of SEO, of marketing, of other guests that they interview that all seem very pertinent to my practice. And if it isn't, then usually I'll just listen to the very next podcast. So it keeps me busy, and it definitely helps with human growth and development.
So when you aren't serving your clients and the legal community here in St. Pete, you're just not working, what are some of your favorite things to do in and around town?
My wife and I, we love traveling. We're big foodies. We love going to restaurants and having drinks. That's what we're passionate about. Pre-COVID, we would go to different cities and do that. COVID obviously is starting to wrench a lot of people's plans, but that's something we really do enjoy doing. We do live close to the beach, so obviously whenever we can get out to the beach, which obviously unfortunately isn't frequent enough, we enjoy doing that and relaxing, and truthfully just being home sometimes is just great.
So where can people find out more about you and Marsalisi Law, your website, social media, where they can connect so that you're top of mind in the unfortunate circumstances they might need you for some personal injury law?
Yep. Website's pretty easy. It's www.marsalisilaw.com. We are active on Facebook as well as the other social media avenues, and same thing, it's just Marsalisi Law.
Awesome. Frank, thanks so much for taking the time, and I really appreciate you talking with me and the community here at Hustleburg.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate you.
You did it. You just listened to Hustleburg. To thank you for listening, we're helping you reach ideal engagement on any social media platform in a 3-week training available at beyondyoursidehustle.com/3 weeks. See how you can change your feed to serve you, start engaging on social the right way, and create a community around you and your business. Speaking of businesses, if you're a small business owner in St. Pete and you'd like to be a guest on an episode of the podcast, let us know at beyondyoursidehustle.com/podcast guest. If you got something of value from this podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast player. This is something small that you can do to help us shine the spotlight on all the great businesses St. Pete has to offer. The music in this episode is Defining Your Dreams by my friend Rhymer Educator. On May 28th, he released a mixtape entitled Quentin Quarantino about loneliness during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I encourage you to check it out on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to great music. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing with you how we do business in the Burg.